All right, hey guys, we're gonna do our lesson here for Thursday. Sorry I couldn't be with you guys. My little girl had a Valentine's Day program. So we've started our trig, and by the way, I'm holding the phone and I'm doing a lot at one time, so just give me a chance, okay? All right, so yesterday we started our trigonometry chapter, and we started talking about sine, cosine, and tangent, and what I want to remind you is sine is opposite over hypotenuse, cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse, tangent is opposite over adjacent. Okay, and in your triangle, your opposite and adjacent side is going to switch depending on what angle is your reference angle. So for example, let's say this is your reference angle. If this one's your reference angle, then the opposite side will be here and your adjacent side will be here. But if we switch the reference angle, let's say it's not this one, let's say it's this one, okay? Well, is this side adjacent to your angle? No, it's not. So these two things switch. So according to this angle, your opposite side is here and your adjacent side is here. So your opposite and adjacent side depend on what angle you're looking at for the problem, okay? All right, so we need to remember SOHCAHTOA. I gave you some other ways to remember it yesterday. Yesterday, we talked about how to calculate the side measurements. Today, we're going to talk about how to calculate the angle measurements. So, if you get your set of notes, these 6 problems are new. The rest of it is review from yesterday. So after we get through with these 6 problems, you are going to work the review part with your group. So it's the rest of the front and the back of the sheet, okay? All right, so we are going to use something called inverse trig. Inverse kind of means the opposite, so you can kind of think of it as the opposite. You only use inverse when you're missing an angle. So it says if you know the sine, cosine, or tangent ratios of an angle, you can use the inverse function, which is sine to the negative 1 power, cosine to the negative 1 power, and tangent to the negative 1 power to find the measure of the angle. And I will show you in a minute how to get those in your calculator, okay? Remember, your calculator has to be in degree mode. So if you go to mode, you want to make sure degree's highlighted, okay? All right. So if I'm looking at this one, the angle with the X is my angle, my reference angle. So we need to figure out what side is 15 and what side is 24. Well, since this side is not touching the angle, this would be my opposite side. And this is the longest side, so it's got to be the hypotenuse. So if you remember SOHCAHTOA, which one of these uses O and H? Well, it would be sine. So we're going to set up a sine function. So this would be the sine of our angle measurement, which is X. That's what we're looking for. And it equals to opposite over hypotenuse. The opposite is 15. The hypotenuse is 24. Well, we have to solve this equation for X. And you notice that it's with sine. So you know how when, like if I were trying to get 15 by itself, I would multiply by 24 because it's the opposite of division? Well, the opposite of sine is sine inverse. So to get rid of this sine, or to initially get it to the other side, your X would equal sine inverse of 15 over 24. Sine and sine inverse are opposites of each other. So all I have to do to get this angle measurement is to use my calculator. So if you'll look at your sine, cosine, and tangent button, in blue above the sine button is sine inverse. Cosine is cosine inverse. Tangent is tangent inverse. So the very first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to press second. Actually, I'm going to turn down this so you can see it. Second sine. And that gives me my sine inverse of, what was it? 15 divided by 24. 15 divided by 24, and I'm going to close my parentheses. Press enter. Your angle measurement, let's see, does it tell us how to round it? To the nearest tenth. So that 8 is going to make the 6 go to a 7. So my angle measurement would be 38.7 degrees. And since this is an angle, you have to have your degree. All right, let's go to number 2. This is your reference angle. And according to this angle, we have the adjacent side and we have the hypotenuse. All right, which one of these uses adjacent and hypotenuse? It would be cosine. So this would be the cosine of our angle measurement, cosine of x, equals to 8 divided by 11. Well, the opposite of cosine is, if you want this to come over here, you've got to do the inverse. So x equals to the cosine inverse of 8 divided by 11. So in your calculator, you would do second cosine 8 divided by 11. Enter. So this 4 is going to make the 3 stay at 3. So this angle is 43.3 degrees. X equals 43.3 degrees. I want you to try the rest of these with your group. You can pause the video, and after you get it paused, after you've worked them and unpause the video, I'm going to tell you what the answers are and how you should have set them up. All right, so here are the answers for 3, 4, 5, and 6. You can pause the video and see how these were set up. And then with your groups, I want you to do the review section. Again, pause the video because I'm going to tell you what the answers are to the review section. Okay, so you should have worked the review section with your neighbors, okay? So I'm going to go through and tell you what these answers are. I'm not going to show you how to work it. If you don't get it right, you need to talk about it with your group. Okay, so this one, notice this is a side measurement. So we're not using the inverse like we did at the top. You only use the inverse when you're calculating an angle. You use regular sine, cosine, tangent if you're calculating a side. So this is what we did yesterday. You can use yesterday's notes. All right, this one is x equals 13.6. Number 8 is x equals 19.5. Number 9 is x equals to 6.5. Number 10 is x equals to 12.6. Okay, flipping over to the back. Now you're going to use some inverses because you're looking for angle measurements. Number 11, x equals to 50.5 degrees. Number 12, x equals to 17.8 degrees. Number 13, x equals to 30.6 degrees. 14 is 31.8 degrees. Number 15, there's a lot going on in this picture. They're getting a little bit harder. DE is what you were looking for, and it's 14.9. You might have to pull in 2 tangent functions to solve for that one. The measure of angle W is 58.2 degrees. And then you've got some word problems down at the bottom. This one is 23.2 degrees. And then the last one's 33.1 degrees. Good luck. Do your homework. It's due tomorrow. You should have turned in yesterday's homework into the basket today. Make sure your name's on it. Have a great day. See you later.